Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Next Level Teaching. I'm your host, Jeremy Anderson, here with my super dope co-hostess with the mostest, Miss Tori Rodriguez. T-Rod, what it do?
What up, guys? Hey,
How
Jay.
you feeling?
I'm great. I'm loving life right now.
You're living your best life.
That's like my favorite song. Every time you say what we are all about here at Next Level Teaching, I immediately start singing, I live in my best life.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I love that song so much. Been working out.
Oh,
Getting
let
back into it.
Let me see them guns. Throw them guns
no,
up.
we're not
Come
there
on, throw them up.
I've been doing Pure Barre, which is great because it's like a mix between yoga, Pilates, and like ballet. So I get my dance side back in a little bit. Starting to feel like me again. You know, those endorphins make you happy, and happy people don't kill their husbands.
Come on with it. Come on with it.
Don't mind my Legally Blonde quote there. But yeah, just like getting those endorphins in and getting that rest in after this year. I think we've all needed that rest.
For sure.
You've been getting that rest, right?
Yes.
Tamisha's like,
Yes, I have.
I was actually just looking up the episode that you were on with us. I think it was episode 34.
Yeah.
Tomisha Jessup, for y'all that don't know. For those of y'all that don't know, if you don't know, now you know.
And you gotta know. So if you haven't listened to episode 34, you gotta go back and listen before you hop into this one. So
5-5.
Yeah, like if you haven't listened, pause.
Yeah.
And come back to this one later.
Go to 34, and we finna pick it back up.
Because, we talked about so many great things with you last time. Miss Traplingual herself. And we talked a lot about your teaching career in Chicago and how that started out. And how it was rough.
I think it was something special.
But you grew a lot with the kids and you made such a relationship with them. And so I'm excited to hear more about your story. I'm excited to kind of dig a little bit deeper into what it's been like here in the A for you. Because I'm sure it's been a little bit different than you were on the south side of Chicago. Is that right?
West side.
West side. Okay.
And now you in the A.
Yes.
And now I'm in the A on the south side.
There it is. Okay. Yep. So before we hop into all that, though, Jay, why don't you let everyone know who we are here at Next Level Teaching?
Chop it up. Look, all you educators out there, we want y'all to catch a bunch of L's.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yep.
And we be provocative with it. We want you to laugh. We want you to learn, and we want you to live your best life. So we bring in some super dope guests that come in and talk that talk, that's walking that walk, that shares their journey.
Yep.
And we believe it's a lot that you're going to pick up and learn. And so that's what we're all about.
Yeah.
Yep. So tell us this, Tomisha. When you first came into Atlanta, went to the south side of Atlanta, elementary school, middle school, high school, what school was it?
So when I first came back, I was in middle school.
Okay.
I was teaching middle school. I was at Brown.
Did you know what you was walking into?
You know, I'm from Atlanta, born and raised originally.
Okay.
So I kind of did. And coming from Chicago, I felt like, I taught in Chicago. I can handle anything. These kids ain't nothing.
Yep.
And
yet, that's not always the case.
No, especially me. I was teaching high school in Chicago. So when I came back, I was teaching middle school in the West End at Brown. And that was different. That was different.
If y'all are watching this on YouTube, you gotta turn it on because that face was so good.
But middle school kids are just they're in a different place.
They are.
And high school kids, they have understanding of how school kind of works most of the time.
Yeah.
And there are certain lines that they just don't cross. I mean, sometimes you get tried, but there are generally lines that aren't crossed. Where middle school, you'll get your hand raised, class interrupted. Senorita, Quavon looking at your booty. And it's like, you're interrupting my class to tell me that? You know what I'm saying? That was the middle school differences. Like those types of like.
If people could see the little bubble pop over your head, what you thinking? You probably be like, I know. So is the principal. So is they daddy. You know? So is everybody in the grocery store.
And let's be honest, though, we talked about this last time about how difficult it is to be a pretty woman
certainly
that is a teacher, especially in that middle school, high school range. That's why I never went to high school, was because I was like, dealing with it in middle school has been hard enough. I can't imagine how you deal with it in high school.
But honestly, comparing the two, I had way less issue in high school than in middle school.
Really?
For that maturity reason. Like, I'm never going to get a high schooler raising their hand, interrupting my class to say something like that. Middle school will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Middle school will give you 17 hugs that morning. You know what I mean? Like, high school... They're not really, it's not the same types of immature struggles.
Yeah.
But then,
hormones might be the same, but the maturity to control it is different.
Exactly. And they're just now coming into them. So they don't even know what it's just like, oh my gosh. Like,
they don't know how to handle the hormones in middle school and that effect.
It's crazy. But anyway, so I started there. Provisionally waiting for everything paperwork-wise and reciprocity and all that to work itself out. Because, I'm tripping. I started right away. No, that's not what brought me back. So what brought me back was I got a job offer to be director of school climate and culture, and I was so excited about it. It's exactly what I wanted to do. I want to plan everything for the kids. I want to make it lit. They don't know, like, other people planning it and they're bored. Like, let me do it. I want to plan the incentives that get kids to come to school. Like, that was what I was coming down here to do. It came with a pay increase. It came with more freedom. And it just was something different that I wanted to do now that I was coming back home. So they literally told me, tell your principal you're not coming back. This is when we need you to be here. So I had to leave Chicago the day after graduation and literally move back to Atlanta so that I could be here in time for whatever they needed me to be here for. Got back, ready to change my life, super excited about this new career path. And I didn't hear from them maybe for like a week. I'm like, okay, like, let me send another email and another text. And Daddy, do you know somebody who works down here? I can, trying to figure out what's going on. Long story short, they're like, oh my gosh, we classified the job wrong in the system and you need a doctorate to do this job now. And
Why?
I'm like,
Pause. Why?
Wow.
Why?
In a mistake, really. They didn't mean to even do it that way. And I'm like, okay, well, put me in, I can get in a doctorate program. What's up? What do I need to do? You know what I mean? Like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we can offer you an English teacher position for this school year. No, because if I take a teaching position here in Atlanta now, I'm going to take almost $20,000 pay cut from Chicago. I did not move here for that. We already struggling as it is. You know what I mean? So just the way they handled that and the way that just the lack of professionalism was just like
mind-blowing.
Wow. So that's how I got teaching at Brown without my reciprocity because I hadn't gone through that process because I didn't need to for the job that I was coming down here to take. So I started teaching there at Brown, and it was fun. It was definitely fun. It reminded me a lot of Chicago in just the way that the students were very, very raw, like no filter. This is what it is. And so I was prepared for that. So I didn't have really any behavior management issues. It wasn't a big culture shock. I was just like, how old are y'all? You know what I mean? Because like y'all are dealing with some of the same things that my high schoolers were dealing with. And so, those types of things. But I will say that middle schoolers were so excited to learn Spanish.
Yes.
They were so excited. My high schoolers were kind of like...
Too cool for school.
I needed a little buy-in. My middle schoolers were like, give me a sombrero, give me the macarenas, like maracas, let's go. Like they were so excited. They were so full of life for it, which was fun.
Yeah.
Which was really, really fun. So I left Brown. I didn't stay there the whole... I stayed there for the rest of the year, but my next year, I needed to go back to high school. Like, that's where I wanted to be. That's where, like, I feel like I should be. So I started working at Tri-Cities, which was great because I didn't go to public school, but that was one of the schools that maybe I would have gone to where I lived. Right. And so I was familiar with it. I knew some people that already worked there. And so I moved in, and the Spanish department, like, accepted me with open arms. They were so excited to have a fresh face. They were so excited to have somebody younger to kind of invigorate the program. And this school happened to be, I would say, about 40% Hispanic, which was very new for me. Like,
did y'all speak Spanish together? Like when you came in there, like, hey, a new Spanish teacher.
Who, me and the other Spanish teachers?
Yeah.
No, you know what? We don't even do that.
No.
Like, I think that we be like, okay, enough Spanish.
Right,
like,
okay.
What we need to do, but very, very rarely.
Okay.
Now I did have a coworker from Puerto Rico, and so it was easier for her to communicate certain things in Spanish.
Okay.
But generally in English, because we're in meetings with other people who don't know what we're saying.
Yeah,
So.
because I just imagine when you was just like, I came in here, we're so excited. I'm like, hey, amigo, you know, so y'all just instantly go into the
that
Spanish.
was the feeling. That was the vibe, but those just weren't the words.
Dope. I love it. Good.
But yeah, so that was such a challenge for me. I'm not a native speaker. Like I learned to speak Spanish in schools. And so now I'm teaching kids who
are native speakers,
like have been speaking it forever, who that's their first language. So I'm teaching them and I'm teaching, you know, a regular population of students, but it gave me so much anxiety.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah,
because they're looking at me when I come in like,
girl, you don't know this, like you're not of this language.
So
you're not
why
of
would they be taking a Spanish class if they already, if that's their first language?
We take English, right?
Yeah.
We take English classes to learn how to formally speak and write the language.
Because
right?
think about this, so my dad, for example, is a native speaker, and he was born and raised in New York, but then went when he was in middle school to go live in Puerto Rico for most of middle school. And he walked into schools in Puerto Rico and took their English class, right, which is in Spanish, but he didn't know how to read and write the language.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
You know how to speak it and listen, but just like she's saying, the way that we take a language arts and English language arts class is the same concept.
Makes sense.
Now, I do have a question for you, though. They don't have a Spanish for native speakers.
So.
Oh, here we go. Yes.
They did not have Spanish for native speakers. I
started it
at that school. Not only did I start it, I wrote the curriculum that Fulton County uses for it.
Good.
Even though it was my first year ever even teaching native speakers. But I determined that in just dealing with them, that there were so many things that they needed.
Yes.
Number one, I had so many kids who did not speak any English. Like, nothing, could not understand me if I did not speak Spanish. And they're going through all of their other classes in English. Like, my class is the only time they're going to hear Spanish all day. But they're going and expected to have the same work and tasks completed, and they don't speak English at all. So when I first started the class, you know, I'm starting with a little bit buying in, like, what is this class? Why am I here? What am I even? Because I know that's what they think, and that's what I would be thinking.
What right do you have to be teaching us? My mama
what
felt
am
the
I going to be learning
way.
from you?
Yeah, my mom felt the exact same way as a white girl walking into. She started the native speakers curriculum in Gwinnett.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
So you guys are in the same boat.
We need
with
to
it.
connect.
Yes.
So, So I taught them. So it was okay. Those are I dreaded going to those classes. Like, I dreaded those classes coming because it gave me such anxiety of like, okay, am I gonna mess up something? Like, I was so on edge about being perfect, and I was so on edge about proving to them that I was the expert here. You know what I'm saying? Instead of them being the experts. But they didn't approach me like that. That was all in my own head. That was my own pride. That was my own anxiety. They did not deal with me in that way. They would make jokes like, you know, you said that wrong. But I'm thinking, yeah, I probably did. But I'm like, wait, y'all, I learned Spanish in Spain. We don't speak it the same way.
Yeah.
And most of my students had never heard a Spanish accent.
Right.
So they're like,
zapatos.
Exactly. You're saying it wrong. And I'm like, so then now I'm like, dang.
Instead of de nada, it's por nada.
All of that.
Yes.
I mean, like, many small changes that when I'm communicating with them make me seem like I'm not the expert. But really, I'm like, no, wait, hold on, y'all.
So, hold please, because you and I are on the same wavelength, because
I'm just believing, I'm just like, that part.
So let's fill Jay in and let's fill in some non-Spanish speaker people. So what she's talking about with the fact that she learned it in Spain, that's that Castilian, that's that vosotros form, which a lot of us learn in the States. We learn the nosotros.
Spanish.
And so there's a different type. So it's just like different dialects of English, right? Like how
I usually describe it. Sorry to cut you off.
No, go.
How I usually describe it, because my kids ask this question, is we speak English in the United States. They speak English in England.
Yeah.
But it's very different English.
Right.
Although we can make meaning of what we're both saying, there are words that they're going to use completely. That's my first example. Completely differently than we're going to. The loo is a name for us, a place for us. The loo is the bathroom. You know what I mean? The lift. we can make sense that would be the elevator or the escalator, but that's the word for it in England. So Spanish is the same way. In Spain, they have words that you're not going to hear anywhere else, or they're going to be used completely different somewhere else. They have a whole conjugation. So like instead of saying you all somewhere else, you use a whole different form in Spain. And so that's the Spanish that I'm used to hearing. And they also have a different accent.
Yeah.
So their C's are going to have a th, their Z's are going to have a th sound to them, whereas in most Latin American countries, it's not. It's going to sound s or the whatever it is.
That's deep.
And just like also how we have different like dialects within the United States, right? Like down here in the South, there's y'all and buggy, right?
And up
Go
north,
get the
it might be like yo, hey yo.
yes. And so if I were to say y'all up north, they'd be like, oh, there's one of those Southerners.
Yeah.
Or instead of like a grocery cart, I'd call it a buggy.
Right. Or if somebody says, hey, can you hand me a can of pop as opposed to a can of soda?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's the
Because
same
soda's
concept.
the correct way to say it, but some people say pop.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
know what I'm saying?
So I want to know, do you have those conversations with your students? Because my mom talked about that and how sometimes, especially, I mean, in Spanish, there are some words that are like a cuss word in one country, but in another. My best friend, Natalie, she's El Salvadorian and literally just had this conversation with her siblings and her mom, because her mom used a word with the grandchild and they were like, you just used that word with but the mom didn't see it as anything wrong. Yeah. And then they brought my mom into it to have this conversation about it as well. So I think that that's such a great thing. Talk about that. Sorry.
So yeah, that is definitely a part of what I focused my native speakers class on, was like making you aware of your own culture, of your own language, and the differences within it. Because I had those students who were Mexican, I had Puerto Rican, Salvadorian, Honduran, all types of different cultures and then I had some black kids in there, just scheduling issues, but they're in there like, hey, why am I in here? But it was eye-opening for them to see, like, because they're going to walk through the halls and call everybody in here Mexican. And that's not the case at all. And so them being in the class, they were seeing such strong differences in the cultures and in even the way they spoke, the way they looked.
Can I just LOL real quick and say, when you said there were black people in there, I was like, okay, so like Dominicans or what?
No, just American, born and raised in Atlanta.
I'm glad that you clarified that, because I think that some people forget, though, that there are Hispanics that are black.
Afro-Latinos, Afro-Latinx, all of that.
Okay, sorry, keep going.
So
I'm all over the place with you, but I love this.
Look, that's how my brain works too. So I can be like, yeah. But sometimes I don't remember though. So that was I think that was my biggest struggle moving back to Atlanta in that particular school, but I loved it. Right. I loved the challenge of it. I think once I got over myself, I really thrived and I really figured out, okay, this is what I need to give you all. Most of them could figure out, they could read it. Okay, there were, smaller groups that struggled with reading Spanish. But mostly what I think that my students got from that was the culture of it all.
Yes.
So like realizing the reasons behind they do it. And so behind the reasons that they do it. And what I also wanted to establish at that school was an appreciation from the other students of the Hispanic students in their school, because it made up 40%. And they had nothing. So Hispanic Heritage Month, we did a Spirit Week. All right, the school can get involved. This is Taco Day. This is, soccer day, whatever. Because they just going through the motions. They already don't have classes that cater to them because they only have Spanish and they don't speak English. They have no other Spanish-speaking teachers or staff members other than the 3 Spanish teachers there. So I'm getting pulled in conferences to translate when I'm I don't know nothing about this kid here, but you need me to translate. And like, they were just going through the motions of the school, but not really a part of it, other than the soccer team, literally, other than the soccer team. So making them aware of their culture and bringing the school in, like the other, not just, we're doing this for them. No, the whole school is a part of this thing that we're doing. I decorated the whole hallway with flags.
I did that too.
Like, girl,
you remember that at Berkeley?
We need to open up a school. It would be crazy.
We do. It would be so good.
But yeah, so that was that. I love that school though. I don't know where.
How long were you there?
I was there just a year.
Okay.
I was there just a year.
You did all that in 1 year?
I did all that in 1 year. Yeah, literally. The summer after that year, I wrote the curriculum that they are still using now. And
Wow.
I moved on because in my mind, at this time, I really wanted to open a school. Right, I have a certain idea of
Girl, I'm in.
of what education should look like
Agreed.
in for our students, and so like I'm like, okay, I did this high school thing. I love it here. I'm gonna be back, y'all. But let me go get some experience in a charter school. I need to know how different types of schools work. I went to private Christian school my whole life, got that down pat. Taught in public neighborhood school. Got that down pat. Came back, okay, I see how Atlanta's public school running. Let me go check out the charter schools and see how that works, because I just don't know about them. So my younger siblings went to a charter school, a nature school out in South Atlanta, South Fulton rather, and like doing great. I'm like, okay, this is a cool, like
Yeah.
really cool school. I love the idea of it. They have agriculture and like the school's outside, and it just awesome. So I went to, I actually started teaching Spanish after school there for parents who signed up. And so then for that school year, I ended up working there, middle school, and had to be my hardest year ever. Like, this was my first year of teaching that I'm like, I think I'm done with this. Like, I think that I'm over it. I think this isn't working. But in
Why?
retrospect now, okay, so these are the reasons why I'm like, this isn't it. I was having so many classroom management issues, and I've never had them.
Yeah.
Like, and so for me, probably my ego, I'm like, y'all ain't nobody. I done taught real gangsters in Chicago. Like, why y'all giving me problems? Like, y'all little bitty self, why? You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, baffled. Like, I've never had to call an administrator to my room, ever. Like I told you, I'd never even had a fight in my class in Chicago. So now I'm dealing with kids who are trying me. I'm looking like, so I was going home from work every day so stressed. Like, it would take, and my commute was 40 minutes. It would take the full 40 minutes for me to just calm down. Like, I was so irritated and tense and overwhelmed
And that commute
every
didn't help.
day. And I'm like, I shouldn't feel like this. This is not making me happy. This is not it. So I kept saying, okay, well, they got till December. That was my, like, they got till December out of me. And so by end of October, my they got to December attitude was showing up in classes. It was like, all right, y'all want to act? I'm just going to sit down right here. The work still do. And I was like, nah, I don't want to be this. Like, this is not working for anybody.
Yep.
So I don't think it was anything that I did that just kind of snapped out. I have to applaud my coworkers because they could just see it and feel it. And I wasn't connecting with them. I wasn't connecting with the kids. I just wanted to go home. And I think a lot of it had to do with, so this was also the first school that I pushed into. So I didn't have my own classroom, right? I had a cart. No, I didn't even have a cart, to be honest with you. They just said, these going to be where your classes are, get to them on time. And so for me, that was a big, adjustment. And I didn't know that prior to taking the job. So, because for me, I'm so used to creating such an environment in my classroom that it facilitates how my classes run. They know they go right there to get this, this, and this. They know they do go here to drop this, this, and this off. And without having that classroom, my systems were like,
Yeah.
okay, how do I create these systems when I'm pushing into different classrooms? I don't have my own space. So I'm like, okay, I need a cart. I found a cart that I liked on Amazon, gave it to my school. They got it. It was like a real tool cart. But I had to make those places like, okay, this is the student station. Yes, this little corner of the cart is the student station. But I had to create those systems with my cart. But it was still impacting my management because now I don't know what this teacher is allowing in here, and this room I'm walking into is already in chaos. I don't have the control of them coming in and me establishing that culture and that environment. I'm already dealing with whatever that teacher was already dealing with them, but when I walked in, that's where we're at with it. And the reset, okay, let's go outside, let's line up, was taking 15 minutes of my class.
Wow.
So it was like, this ain't for me no more. I'm not effective. But it came down to I didn't have the same relationships with those kids.
Right.
Because they didn't have I was coming in and I had to take so much time getting things into, okay, this is my class time now, that when it was time to go, I just had to leave. There wasn't that downtime of kicking it with me.
Right.
There wasn't that, oh, we have a couple extra minutes, come kick it at my desk, or you came to school early, you want to come to my... That wasn't happening. During lunch, that was my only prep. So I wasn't going in there kicking it with them during lunch. I was trying to recoup. And so missing out on those opportunities to form those relationships without taking my class time, I think impacted how I felt about teaching at first in that environment.
Right. But then you initially got to a point where you caught a groove.
Yeah.
Did you stay there for a while, or did you transition?
I stayed.
Okay.
I stayed. Like I said, my coworkers, they really made work worth it for me at that point.
Okay.
Because
So share a few tangible things, because I want some of our listeners to be able to kind of take some notes and say, you know what, if I see another teacher that's struggling or dying or drowning in this space or just unhappy, like these are some things that I can implement. Well, if there were some examples you can share with us, or maybe even how they made you feel, maybe it was something that they said. Or
okay. I think that what they did, I can remember specifically just talking to me about what works for them.
Okay.
And so another thing, I'm still transitioning from high school. So in high school, there's not as much calling your parent for all of your misbehaviors.
Yeah.
And so I was not conditioned to do that. But that is what this group needed. They needed a phone call every time they're misbehaving while it's happening.
To keep them on
and
track.
for me, I'm like, I'm not taking my class time to do that. You know what I mean? But
It affects them, and it does make a difference.
even if it was just the threat of it, because what I am is a threatener. I'm going to call your mama. I'm going to call you. I ain't calling your mama.
Right.
And once they kind of figured out, she ain't going to call.
Right.
Then that threat wasn't working.
Right.
So then when I called, everybody's like, oh my gosh, she really calling right now on speakerphone. Yep. Embarrassing you too. All of it. Yep. Hello. You know, and then walk out with you, whatever. But I had to actually do that. And I had to change how I even managed my classroom.
Yeah.
And so they definitely told me calling home right when it's happening is effective, which I did see help.
And they probably recommended that because they had some of the same challenges. So it probably freed you up to know it ain't just me.
Yeah.
This is just what's happening at this school. We're going to have to figure this out together. Okay, good. Yep.
Yeah.
Also, something else that they did. So I was suggesting, like, we need detention here. We need, there needs to be some discipline systems, because what I was feeling was a lack of support from my admin for these behaviors. It's like, yes, this is happening. I know what I'm supposed to do, but y'all got to back it up.
Right.
Otherwise, what I'm doing is ineffective.
Yes.
Or what I was seeing was not only were they not backing up what I was doing, counteractively, like,
No, it's okay. Go back to class.
don't do that. Like, I remember another teacher made the students write. Admin's like, they can't do that. Find something else. We don't have detention.
Right.
We can't send them out because there's no hallway at this particular school. This is a nature school. We send them out, they walking through the woods. But there's no detention. In-school suspension is a joke, because all they do is get a laptop and do whatever they want for the rest of the day. So what systems are y'all putting in place to support the discipline that we're trying to put into our classrooms?
Yeah.
And without that, how effective can we be?
Right.
Especially a new teacher coming in without those systems in place and without that relationship and rapport with the students.
Right.
It's like, help me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my coworkers were definitely people like, okay, well, if they're acting up, I'll come send them to me, or let them know you're going to tell me. I have them next. And so we kind of banded together as a teacher group to give us the support that we were lacking, that we felt like we were lacking on an administration level.
And so that's a strong point there, because a lot of times they try to be renegades. Educators are like, man, I'm going to figure this thing out on my own, as opposed to saying, you know what, y'all finna double team on me, we finna double team on y'all, and speak life and redirect and make sure we see what's working, what's not working, so that child can go even further. Can you hang out with us a little longer?
Absolutely.
We want to bring you in on the second part.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So all of y'all that's watching, thanks for y'all for tuning in for this week's episode. She going to be back next week for part 2. We going to go deeper. Let's get it.